What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm fired up. You know why? Because today is Tuesday, bringing you another Tackle Tip Tuesday. And hey, you know what? It is summertime. It is hot out. They're pulling current on the TVA. In this Tackle Tip Tuesday, we are going to be talking about deep cranking. Big one. Probably my favorite way to catch them besides on the top water. Now, I say that about a bunch of different ways, guys, but you know, you only get to catch them on a deep crankbait, you know, for a couple weeks out of the year. And I absolutely love to do it. And here lately on Kentucky Lake, it has been phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the videos by now. Hopefully, I don't know where they're going to be posted, but we have been out there smashing them on a 6XD and an 8XD. Now, that's where we're going to get into it. I throw two plugs. 99% of the time, I throw a 6XD and an 8XD. Always, always, always tight on my deck in the summertime. Now, we're going to start with the 6XD. You know, Strike King offers a bunch of different colors, but my all-around favorite is the Chartreuse Blueback. I mean, that's the only color, in my opinion, I think you need on the Tennessee River. You can see how much I've been throwing. This one's got the wear right there from the hooks. Now, this 6XD, guys, is... if you guys have not cranked before, I highly, highly suggest it because it is so addicting. Chartreuse Blueback 6XD, and you know, I have it paired with 12-pound Contra. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little dicey. You know, sometimes I go to a 10. Depends on how deep they are. You know, if I'm fishing like 12 to 18, I'll normally go to 12-pound line. But if they're a little deeper than that, I want this 6XD to get a tad bit deeper. That's when I'll go to 10-pound. But all around, you know, 12-pound line Contra fluorocarbon is by far a killer setup for me and the 6XD. Now, the rod and reel. Super, 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 super important. Just about every other bait I talk about, your rod and your reel is probably the most important thing. Now, we have a bunch of different cranking rods at Lew's. I'm just going to give you my favorite. We have tons of them. But my favorite is the Signature Series Mark Rose. Signature Series, this is Mark Rose's signature rod. This is a 711 medium heavy. This is an action fast, guys, this rod. So here's where the 711 comes into play. You know, sometimes you can throw a 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. Now, 711 for me gives me, I feel like, an extra about 40 or 50 yards of cast. And here's why. A big rod, a long rod, a 711 allows you to load that crankbait up and throw it a long, long ways. Now, 12-pound line, like I said, but the reel. This is a KVD reel. And this is, you know, another important deal. My cranking guys out there, you know what I'm talking about. The gear ratio on the reel is probably the most important thing. And if you have a too fast of a reel, you're going to wear yourself out. If you have too slow of a reel, it's never going to get down there. You're going to wear yourself out again. So you got to find that happy medium. And for me, that is a 6.5 to 1 gear ratio. Now, I've played with a bunch of different reels on cranking. I absolutely love Kevin's reel, you know, KVD. And guys, this reel holds a ton of line. And when I'm spooling this line on this reel, it's kind of got a shallower spool. I usually put backing on, you know, for certain other scenarios or whatever it might be, throwing a jig or something. But for cranking, I do not put backing on. I run straight 12-pound all the way down to the spool. And, you know, it holds a lot of line. And if you know, making those long, super long casts, you still have tons of line left on here. Now, guys, this, absolutely, like I've said, I'm going to say it 1,000 times. I love catching them on a 6XD. Now, here's another big player. You know, a lot of the times when you're out there on KY or Tennessee River or whatever it might be, those fish are always, you know, there could be some in 10 foot of water, there could be some in 25 foot of water. Now, that's when I said earlier in the video, I always have two plugs tied on, a 6 and an 8. So this is my 8XD. Again, Chartreuse Blueback. Guys, I'm telling you, it's just something about this color of a crankbait, whether you're running that in a 6, 8, or a 10, or a 5, or a 2.0 or whatever it might be. We offer the Chartreuse Blueback in every single crankbait. It's by far my favorite color. Now, 8XD. So, I'm rambling on here. I just got done eating dinner. My belly's full. But 8XD is a little bigger of a crankbait. And I'm going to bump it up the line size just a smidge. I'm going to 14-pound Contra. And sometimes even 15-pound. You know, whether you guys throw Contra or whatever line you throw, it's I always bump it up to 14 or 15 because it's a lot more stress loading that rod up, throwing a little heavier of a crankbait. This 8XD weighs a lot more than the 6 does, and that's why I bump up the line size. Now, same rod, Mark Rose Signature Series Deep Crankbait Rod 711. Here's the difference though. You see I have a different reel on here. This is the BB1 Pro, guys, and this reel is a monster for cranking. Absolutely love this reel, but when I'm throwing an 8XD, I like to bump it up to a 7.5 to 1, and here's why. You know, you can make twice as long of a cast with an 8XD than you can a 6. But if I'm making those little shorter casts and the 8XD, I want that faster gear ratio to get down there quicker. And once I feel it hit the bottom, that's when I'll just, you know, slowly start to reel it. But bumping up that gear ratio allows you to still get the same speed that you would on a 6.5 to 1 or 6.2, whatever you throw. But I can just slowly reel it and I can feel it get down there quicker. That's why I want the little faster gear ratio, to get it down there to them faster. Now, when I hook one, the fast gear ratio is pretty nice when you hook one because you can just kind of start reeling a little harder and just ease into them. And I see a lot of guys do this on YouTube or, you know, TV, whatever it might be. You catch one on a plug, and you know, you just yak them like you do a jig. You ain't got to do that, guys. I mean, these 6XD, 8XDs come with amazing treble hooks on them. You can change them out if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. And here's another cool thing too. Spoiler alert: we are coming out with a new line of deep crankbaits. It's still going to be called the 6XD, 8XD. We're just going to add a little flavor to it, a couple more colors, and it's coming out at ICAST this year, so y'all stay tuned for that. But back to the topic, 8XD rod. You know, guys, this is an amazing way to catch them. But like I was saying, I see a lot of guys kind of jack them on TV. You don't have to. You can just, you know, they'll hit that thing so hard, and you just kind of lean into them, and you got them. You know, drag is super important. A lot of times I don't, you know, I'll back the drag off the reel like such or whatever, but a lot of times I just click my thumb on the spool and I play them by hand. Drag's really good. Now, I'm not knocking a reel or nothing like that. It's just personally what I like to do. I trust my thumb, and I just feel like I got a little more control over them. Now, I mean, you'll see in a couple of these videos that we're posting on KY, I lost 2 big ones. And I never saw them, but I just loosened my drag up and let them run. But, you know, like I said, it's whatever your cup of flavor is, you know, whatever you like to do or trust the most or whatever it might be. Back to the crankbait side, the 6 and 8XDs. So this 8 is just a regular 8XD, but on the 6, let me get it back up here. Without breaking a rod here in my fan. The 6XD, this is a hard knock. Get out of the picture. But that is a hard knock 6XD. We have a hard knock, we have a silent, and we have a regular. I like the hard knock. I like throwing a hard knock in there first. Super loud, super aggressive. You know, catch a couple on it, they quit biting it. I might pick up a silent and throw it in there. You know, you might generate another bite or two. So it's always good to have, you know, a silent on, a hard knock, and a regular. You know, the regular has rattles in it. It still makes noise, but the hard knock is super loud. It's got tungsten beads in it, so it's really loud, obnoxious crankbait, and that's why I always like to throw it in there first and get that erratic bite. And here's another thing, guys: when you know you're scanning or you find a school of fish, and in my opinion, now some of you guys might agree with this, some of you might not. The first 2 bites you're going to get out of that school are going to be the biggest ones. That's just my opinion. I've always thought that, and you know, a lot of times it shows the tail. But now there is times, you know, you catch 10 or 15, and you might catch a 6-pounder later on. But for me, it's like I like to pull up, throw a plug in there, you know, get them fired up, catch the first 2 biggest ones, or I might not. I might catch a big one later, but I always feel like the bigger ones bite first, and that's just something that I've always felt like I said. But guys, deep cranking is by far my favorite way to catch them. You know, the knot I tie, I've had a lot of people ask about the knots I tie. I just tie a regular polymer knot on both plugs, no big deal. Keep it pretty simple. But, you know, it's absolutely amazing. I love throwing a big plug. And on KY, you know, you're scanning around. And me and Todd went to Tuesday Nighter last night. We won with 18 pounds, but we scanned around for hours, it seemed like. But we rolled across the place right there at dark. And you could hear us in the video like, oh, there they are. And we both jump up on the deck and fire a plug in there. And we start catching them every cast. There's absolutely nothing like it, guys. And, you know, I mean, like I said, I've said it 1,000 times, but it's such a fun way to catch them. You can get it out there quick, you can get them in there quick, and it's just a really good way to get a bunch of bites, you know, very fast. Now, like when they stop biting a crankbait, you know, that's when you can throw your jig in there or your Carolina rig, whatever it might be. But always start with a crankbait, and that's You know, some guys might start with a spoon, some guys might start with a jig, but for me, I like to get them fired up quick. And, you know, I've seen this too. A lot of guys, they'll pull up on a school and, you know, catch a couple and just sit there and wait them out. I don't like doing that. It's just not for me. There's always fish biting on the lake, and, you know, just bounce around a lot. You know, you got to find them biting, and you can load the boat quick, fast, and in a hurry when that happens. Now, cranking deep ledges, you know, with the 6 and 8 XD is totally fun, right? I've said that literally a million times. I'm gonna keep saying it because this is my favorite way to catch them. But another great way to catch them on a plug, you know, 6 and 8 XD is brush pile fishing. You know, you go down to Texas, Brayburn, Toledo, very, very popular there. And I'm gonna take my same setups that I throw here on the Tennessee River ledge fishing and take them down to Texas and do the exact same thing. You know, forward-facing sonar comes in effect there, kind of, sort of. You know, if a brush pile is sitting in 15 foot, you can, you know, throw that 6 over there and kind of watch it come down to it and see how deep it is. Now, brush pile fishing, when you're cranking, could consist of, like, if all your piles are in 15 foot, you might get away with a 5XD on a 10-pound line. You know, get it down there a little deeper. Or here's another thing. Throwing a 6, you can bump your line size up, maybe even 16-pound, and just keep it right above that brush pile. You know, just tick the top of it, and that's a really big thing because you don't want to have it go too deep and get into brush pile and get hung up every cast. That's not fun. You don't want to lose a you know, really expensive crankbait. But so that's something you guys got to think in mind too. I had somebody comment and say I need a good cranking setup for brush pile fishing. Like I said, I take my same setups, ledge fishing, cranking, that I do in brush pile. You might just want to up the line size, depends on how deep the pile is or whatever it might be. So keep that in mind too, guys. With that being said, this Tackle Tip Tuesday week is brought to you by Strike King and Lose, of course, but 8XD, 6XD. Now, I'll hit on this too. I always have a 6 and 8 tied on. Now, a 10XD is really, really good. I throw it every now and then, but guys, you know, unless it gets like July, you know, late into July, 1st of August, when those fish get like 30 plus feet deep, that's when a 10XD comes into play. But, you know, 99% of the time, you can always have a 6 and 8 and catch them on it and get the bait down there to them. So, like I said, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. This is a Tackle Tip Tuesday cranking week. It's summertime. They're biting a big plug, and they're schooled up. So go find you some. We'll see you guys on the next one.